Picture a pirate with a colourful parrot on his shoulder, a wooden peg leg, and a mysterious eye patch shouting "Arr" as he makes someone walk the plank. Now forget everything you just imagined, because almost none of it is real. So sit back, grab a cup of tea, and get ready to explore how Hollywood created a pirate that never existed. We'll discover why the real pirates were both more ordinary and more terrifying than their fictional counterparts. Examine how parrots, peg legs, and eye patches became pirate symbols when few pirates actually had them, and learn what the harsh realities of pirate life versus the colourful myths that entertain us reveal about how stories can completely replace history in our collective imagination. The year is 1950, and actor Robert Newton is preparing to play Long John Silver in Disney's Treasure Island. His exaggerated West Country accent, complete with rolling R's and Avasti Metais, will soon define how the entire world imagines pirates speak. But here's the thing. Golden Age pirates came from everywhere: England, France, Holland, Spain, Africa, the American colonies, and they spoke dozens of languages and dialects. The pirate accent that every child can imitate today was invented by one British actor interpreting one fictional character from a novel written over a century after piracy's peak. This is how myths are born. Let's start with the most iconic pirate accessory, the parrot. Long John Silver's parrot, Captain Flint, perched on his shoulder squawking "pieces of 8, has convinced generations that pirates routinely kept tropical birds as pets. The reality? While some sailors did occasionally capture exotic animals to sell in European markets, keeping a parrot aboard a pirate ship would have been remarkably impractical. Parrots require specific diets, create mess and noise, and most importantly, they bite hard. In the cramped, violent world of a pirate ship, a loud bird that attacks people would likely end up in the cooking pot rather than on someone's shoulder. The few documented cases of pirates with animal companions usually involved more practical choices. Cats were valuable for controlling rats that threatened food supplies. Dogs could serve as guards and companions. Monkeys, while exotic, were at least somewhat trainable and could entertain crews during long voyages. But these were exceptions. Most pirates had neither the resources nor the inclination to maintain pets while engaged in the deadly serious business of maritime crime. The tropical bird trade did intersect with piracy, but not in the way Hollywood suggests. Pirates sometimes captured ships carrying exotic animals bound for European markets. These creatures represented valuable cargo to be sold quickly, not shipboard companions. A parrot that might fetch good money in London was worth nothing squawking in a pirate's ear during battle. The image of pirates with parrots comes almost entirely from Treasure Island, published in 1883, where Robert Louis Stevenson gave Long John Silver a parrot to emphasize his exotic, dangerous nature. Now, about those peg legs. The image of a pirate stumping around on a wooden leg has become so standard that pirate costumes often include fake peg legs. Stede Bonnet had a wooden leg, right? Actually, no. Blackbeard. Number. Captain Kidd. Number. In fact, of all the famous pirates whose appearances were documented by contemporaries, almost none had peg legs. The most famous real pirate with a missing leg was François Leclerc, known as Peg Leg, who operated in the 1550s, over a century before the golden age of piracy. This isn't to say pirates never lost limbs. Maritime life in the Age of Sail was extraordinarily dangerous. Cannonballs, falling rigging, and infected wounds claimed many limbs. But here's the harsh reality. Most sailors who lost a leg above the ankle didn't become peg-legged pirates. They died. Without modern antibiotics, amputation had a survival rate of perhaps 25 to 40% under the best circumstances. Aboard a ship, with a carpenter's saw and rum for anaesthetic, those odds dropped precipitously. Those who did survive amputation faced grim prospects. The prosthetics of the era were primitive, essentially carved wooden posts strapped to the stump. These caused pain, sores, and infection. More importantly, maritime work requires agility. Climbing rigging, maintaining balance on a rolling deck, and fighting in close combat all become nearly impossible with a peg leg. A one-legged pirate was a liability, not an asset. Most amputees who survived were left ashore, perhaps given a share of plunder if their crewmates were generous, but their pirating days were over. The peg-legged pirate entered popular culture through fiction, particularly through Long John Silver. Stevenson made Silver's missing leg central to his character. He's dangerous despite his disability, using a crutch as a weapon and hopping about with surprising agility. This fictional portrayal created the template for countless pirate characters since, but it represents fantasy, not historical reality. Eye patches present a more complex story. The popular image shows pirates wearing eye patches as badges of honor, proof of battles survived. A persistent modern myth claims pirates wore eye patches to maintain night vision, keeping one eye adapted to darkness for fighting below decks. This theory, while clever, has zero historical evidence. No period source mentions this practice, and it makes little practical sense. Pirates fought primarily in daylight and had more straightforward ways to preserve night vision, like simply closing one eye when needed. The truth about eye patches is both simpler and sadder. Eyes are vulnerable, and maritime life offered countless ways to damage them. Splinters from shattered wood, burning powder from cannons, and blade wounds in close combat all threatened vision. When eyes were damaged beyond repair, infection often followed. Many sailors who lost eyes died from subsequent infection. Those who survived might wear a patch to cover the disturbing sight, but this was about basic courtesy and hygiene, not pirate fashion. Contemporary descriptions of famous pirates rarely mention eye patches. Blackbeard, perhaps the most thoroughly described pirate, had both eyes. So did Bartholomew Roberts, Charles Vane, and Anne Bonny. The few pirates who did lose eyes often tried to hide their disability rather than display it. In a world where physical capability meant survival, advertising a weakness by wearing an eye patch made little sense. The eye patch pirate, like the peg-legged one, owes more to illustration than history. When Treasure Island was illustrated, artists gave pirates eye patches as visual shorthand for danger and disability. Comic books and movies amplified this image until it became inseparable from piracy. Today, putting on an eye patch instantly identifies someone as a pirate, even though actual pirates rarely wore them. Walking the plank might be the most famous pirate execution method that never actually existed. The image is powerful, a prisoner forced to walk along a board extended over the ocean, hands tied, sharks circling below. It's dramatic, cinematic, and allows for last-minute rescues or defiant final words. There's just one problem. Pirates didn't do it. Not a single contemporary account from piracy's golden age mentions walking the plank. No trial records, no survivor testimonies, no newspaper reports describe this practice. The phrase, walking the plank, doesn't appear in print until the 1820s, well after piracy's peak. Even then, it described a theoretical punishment, not documented practice. Real pirates had far more straightforward methods of dealing with unwanted prisoners. If they wanted someone dead, they shot them, stabbed them, or simply threw them overboard. These methods were quick, efficient, and didn't require special equipment or ceremonies. Pirates were practical criminals, not theatrical villains. Setting up a plank, forcing someone to walk it, and waiting for them to fall was unnecessarily complicated. When pirates did want to terrorize without killing, they had established methods. Marooning, abandoning someone on a deserted island with minimal supplies, was a real and dreaded punishment. Keel hauling, dragging someone under the ship's hull, was practiced by some naval forces, and occasionally by pirates. Flogging, beating, and various forms of torture were all documented. But walking the plank, that was invented by 19th century writers who wanted dramatic scenes for their stories. The myth persists because it's visually compelling and seems plausible. Pirates were cruel, ships had planks, and the ocean was right there, but actual pirate brutality was usually either more mundane, a quick bullet, or more creatively sadistic, marooning with just enough supplies to ensure a slow death. The plank-walking ceremony, we imagine, reflects our desire for pirates to be theatrical villains, rather than the pragmatic killers they actually were. Shiver me timbers, yo-ho-ho, avast ye scurvy dogs. The pirate vocabulary everyone knows is almost entirely fictional. Real pirates spoke like sailors, because that's what they were. Their speech was full of nautical terms, certainly, but these were the working languages of the sea, not theatrical exclamations. A pirate was more likely to shout, "Let go the halyard," than "Arr, me hearties." The pirate accent deserves special attention. That distinctive growling speech pattern, "Ah, Jim lad," was invented wholesale by Robert Newton for his portrayal of Long John Silver. Newton, from Dorset in England's West Country, exaggerated his native accent to create something that sounded exotic to audiences. His performance was so memorable that every pirate portrayal since has copied it. But Golden Age pirates came from all over the Atlantic world and would have had wildly different accents. English pirates might have had London, Bristol, or Liverpool accents. French pirates spoke French. Dutch pirates spoke Dutch. Many crews were polyglot mixing pots where pidgin languages developed for basic communication. African pirates, who made up a significant percentage of many crews, brought their own languages. The idea that all these men spoke with the same theatrical West Country accent is absurd, yet it's so embedded in our culture that pirates speaking any other way seems wrong. Real pirate communication was practical and professional. They used standard nautical commands because precision mattered when handling a ship. They likely swore prolifically, sailors always have, but their curses were the common profanities of their era, not specially piratical ones. Court records that preserve pirate speech show them speaking normally for their time and class, with no special pirate dialect. The romanticized pirate language serves a cultural function. It makes pirates seem both more exotic and less threatening. A pirate who says "ah" is a storybook character. A pirate who speaks normally while robbing and killing is a genuine criminal. The fictional dialect helps maintain the comfortable distance between pirate fantasy and pirate reality. Now, let's bury the myth of buried treasure, pun intended. The image of pirates burying chests of gold on remote islands, marking the spot with an X on a secret map, is pure fiction. Pirates didn't bury treasure for a simple reason. They spent it immediately. The whole point of piracy was quick wealth, and that wealth was worthless if you couldn't enjoy it. When pirates captured a prize, they divided the plunder according to their articles of agreement, the ship's rules. Ordinary seamen got one share, officers got more, and everyone wanted their cut immediately. Pirates were young men living dangerous lives with short expected lifespans. They didn't save for retirement. They spent on alcohol, women, gambling, and fine clothes as soon as they reached port. The taverns and brothels of Port Royal, Nassau, and Madagascar grew rich on pirate gold, spent as fast as it was stolen. The few documented cases of pirates hiding treasure were emergency measures, not long-term planning. William Kidd did bury some treasure on Gardiner's Island, but only because he was negotiating for his life and needed bargaining chips. He fully intended to retrieve it quickly, and told multiple people its location, hardly the secret map scenario we imagine. Francis Drake cached some treasure during his circumnavigation, but again, this was temporary storage, not permanent burial. The buried treasure myth owes everything to fiction, particularly Treasure Island. Stevenson created the idea of a treasure map marked with X, of chests buried by dead pirates, of cryptic clues leading to untold riches. The image was so compelling that it overwrote reality. Today, metal detector enthusiasts still search beaches for pirate treasure that was never buried because it was spent centuries ago in portside taverns. The Jolly Roger, the skull and crossbones flag, is one pirate symbol that's actually real, but not in the way most people imagine. Pirates did fly black flags and some did feature skulls, but the idea that all pirates used the same design is false. Pirate flags were as varied as the crews that flew them, and they served specific tactical purposes beyond simple identification. The classic skull and crossbones was just one of many designs. Bartholomew Roberts flew multiple flags, including one showing himself standing on two skulls labelled ABH and AMH, a Barbadian's head and a Martinican's head, threatening death to those islands' inhabitants. Blackbeard's flag allegedly showed a skeleton holding an hourglass and a spear pointed at a bleeding heart, symbolising that time was running out and death was near. Jack Rackham used the now famous skull with crossed swords. These flags weren't flown constantly. Pirates often approached victims under false colours, flying the flags of legitimate nations until they were close enough to attack. Only then would they raise the black flag, and its meaning was specific. Surrender immediately and you might live. Resist and no quarter will be given. Some pirates also used red flags, which meant no quarter would be given regardless, death to all aboard. The flag served as psychological warfare. A merchant crew that saw a black flag knew they faced a choice: surrender their cargo and probably survive, or fight against desperate men who had already chosen life outside the law. Most chose surrender. The flag's effectiveness lay not in its design, but in its message and the reputation of those who flew it. The standardization of the Jolly Roger into the single skull and crossbones design we know today happened long after piracy's golden age. Pirates themselves would be puzzled by the idea that they all used the same symbol. Their flags were personal statements, threats, and practical tools, not a universal brand. What did pirates actually look like? Forget the matching outfits, the tricorn hats worn at jaunty angles, the gold earrings and colourful sashes. Real pirates dressed like what they were, working sailors who occasionally stole better clothes. Their appearance was dictated by practicality, availability, and the harsh realities of sea life. The typical pirate wore slop clothes, loose trousers cut off at the knee, simple shirts, and whatever footwear they could acquire. Canvas and wool were standard materials, chosen for durability rather than style. In the Caribbean heat, many went shirtless. Shoes were often discarded for bare feet, which gripped wet decks better. The romantic pirate outfit simply didn't exist. When pirates did acquire fine clothes through plunder, the results were often absurd rather than dashing. A pirate might wear a stolen silk coat over canvas trousers, or a fine hat with ragged shoes. They had no access to tailors, so stolen clothes rarely fit properly. Contemporary descriptions often mock pirates for their mismatched, ill-fitting attempts at finery. One observer described pirates as looking like players in a comedy in their stolen gentleman's wear. Personal hygiene was, to put it mildly, not a priority. Fresh water was precious aboard ship, used for drinking, not washing. Pirates might go months without bathing. Lice, fleas, and other parasites were constant companions. Teeth rotted from poor diet and no dental care. Skin was weathered and scarred from sun, salt, and violence. The dashing pirate of fiction would have smelled him coming long before you saw him. Pirates did practice one hygiene technique that seems exotic today. Many tarred their hair. Sailors plaited their long hair into a queue, a braided ponytail, and sealed it with tar to keep it under control and to kill lice. This practical solution created a distinctive appearance, but it was about function, not fashion. The tarred queue was rock hard and had to be cut off rather than unwashed. The diversity of pirate crews also challenges Hollywood casting. Pirates weren't all white Europeans with British accents. Crews included large numbers of African sailors, both escaped slaves and free men. Native Americans, particularly Mosquito Indians prized for their fishing and swimming skills, served on many ships. Portuguese, Spanish, French, Dutch, and sailors from across Europe and the Americas created polyglot crews where English might not even be the dominant language. The daily reality of pirate life was far harsher than any movie suggests. Disease killed more pirates than battle ever did. Scurvy, caused by vitamin C deficiency, was a constant threat on long voyages. Victims' gums bled, teeth fell out, old wounds reopened, and eventually they died in agony. Dysentery, spread by contaminated water and poor sanitation, could kill within days. Yellow fever, malaria, and other tropical diseases decimated crews. Injuries that seem minor today were potential death sentences. A splinter could lead to infection and death. Broken bones, set badly if at all, often left permanent disabilities. Hernias caused by heavy lifting were agonizing and untreatable. Pirates who survived battles often died weeks later from infected wounds. Ships carried surgeons, but these were often just carpenters with sharp saws for amputations. The psychological toll was severe. Pirates lived with constant fear of capture, of battle, of disease, of their own crewmates. Alcohol abuse was rampant, both to cope with fear and because water often wasn't safe to drink. Many pirates showed signs of what we'd now recognize as PTSD, hypervigilance, violent outbursts, nightmares. The jolly pirate singing sea shanties is myth. The reality was desperate men self-medicating with rum. Pirates' careers were notably short. Most died within 2 or 3 years of turning pirate. Bartholomew Roberts, one of history's most successful pirates, lasted just 4 years. Blackbeard's entire pirate career spanned only 2 years. These weren't long careers ending in comfortable retirement. They were brief, violent spasms ending in death by battle, disease, or execution. The mythology of pirate democracy also needs examination. While pirate ships did operate more democratically than naval vessels, with elected captains and voted decisions, this wasn't idealistic egalitarianism. It was pragmatic criminality. Pirates elected leaders who could make them rich and replace those who couldn't. The democracy could be brutally direct. Unsuccessful captains might be voted out mid-voyage and marooned. Violence among pirates themselves was common. The close quarters, constant danger, and abundant alcohol created a volatile environment. Pirate codes tried to regulate behavior. No fighting aboard ship, disputes settled ashore, but these rules were often broken. Pirates killed each other over gambling debts, insults, and shares of plunder. The brotherhood of pirates is largely myth. These were violent men in a violent trade. How did we get from these diseased, violent, desperate criminals to the lovable rogues of popular culture? The transformation began almost immediately after piracy's decline. By the 1720s, with the Golden Age ending, pirates were already being romanticized in popular ballads and cheap publications. Distance made them safe to admire. The major shift came with 19th century literature. Byron's The Corsair, 1814, created the template for the romantic pirate, noble, passionate, driven to crime by society's injustice. Sir Walter Scott added historical romance, but Treasure Island, 1883, was the true game-changer. Stevenson created a pirate story for children, which required sanitizing piracy into adventure rather than crime. Treasure Island's influence cannot be overstated. It created or popularized nearly every pirate trope we know. Treasure maps, buried gold, parrots, peg legs, the black spot, 15 men on a dead man's chest. Stevenson synthesized various nautical legends into a coherent pirate mythology that felt authentic but was largely invented. The book was so successful that its version of piracy replaced history in popular imagination. Stage and screen amplified these myths. The 1904 play Peter Pan gave us the theatrical pirate captain in Hook. Douglas Fairbanks' silent films added swashbuckling acrobatics. Errol Flynn's Captain Blood, 1935, established the pirate as romantic hero. Each iteration moved further from historical reality toward pure fantasy. Disney's influence deserves special mention. The 1950 Treasure Island film standardized the pirate accent through Robert Newton. The Pirates of the Caribbean ride, 1967, created a sanitized, amusing pirate experience for families. The ride's transformation into a film franchise completed the cycle. Pirates based on an amusement park ride, based on movies, based on books that had little to do with historical piracy. Today's pirate mythology serves multiple cultural functions. It provides safe adventure for children. What child hasn't played pirate? It offers escapist fantasy for adults, the freedom of the seas, treasure, adventure. It creates a historical period that never existed, a past we can enjoy without confronting its realities of slavery, colonialism, and violence. The myth also serves economic functions. Pirate tourism drives economies in the Caribbean. Pirate-themed restaurants, festivals, and attractions generate millions. The International Talk Like a Pirate Day, September 19th, has become a global phenomenon. This economic investment in pirate mythology ensures its continuation regardless of historical accuracy. But perhaps the most interesting aspect of pirate mythology is what it reveals about storytelling and memory. In just 3 centuries, we've completely transformed pirates from desperate criminals to beloved cultural icons. The process shows how quickly fiction can overwrite fact when the fiction is more appealing. Real pirates would be baffled by their modern image. These men, and a few women, who lived short, violent lives, pursuing quick wealth through crime, have become immortal symbols of freedom and adventure. They've been transformed from perpetrators of maritime terrorism into cuddly mascots for sports teams and theme restaurants. The transformation raises questions about other historical myths we accept. If pirates can be so thoroughly reimagined, what other historical figures have we gotten wrong? How many of our cultural touchstones are based more on fiction than fact? The pirate example suggests we prefer engaging stories to accurate history. This isn't entirely negative. The pirate myths, while historically false, serve real cultural needs. They provide frameworks for discussing freedom versus law, individual versus society, adventure versus safety. The fictional pirate allows us to explore these themes without confronting the genuinely disturbing realities of historical piracy. But we should at least acknowledge the gap between myth and reality. Real pirates weren't romantic rebels but desperate criminals. They didn't bury treasure. They spent it on drink and disease-ridden ports. They didn't walk the plank. They shot their victims and threw them overboard. They didn't have parrots. They had lice. They didn't say, "Ah." They screamed in pain as infected wounds killed them. The real pirates deserve remembering, not for romanticism but for historical understanding. They were products of their time, a time when European powers fought for colonial dominance, when naval press gangs forced men into service, when the choice between certain poverty and possible wealth through crime seemed reasonable. Understanding real piracy helps us understand the maritime world that shaped our modern global economy. The mythical pirates deserve recognition too, as one of our most successful cultural creations. From Robert Louis Stevenson's imagination to Disney's theme parks, we've crafted an alternate history so compelling it's replaced reality. The process shows both the power and danger of storytelling, its ability to preserve and its ability to erase. As we conclude this exploration of pirate myths versus reality, it's worth asking, does it matter? Does knowing that pirates didn't have parrots or say, "Ah," change anything? Perhaps not for the child playing pirate or the tourist buying a skull and crossbones t-shirt. But for understanding history, for grasping how myths develop, for recognizing the gap between entertainment and education, it matters enormously. The next time you see a pirate, in a movie, at a theme park, in a Halloween costume, take a moment to remember both versions. Remember the fictional pirate who provides entertainment and escape. But also remember the real pirates, diseased, desperate and doomed men who chose crime over poverty and paid the inevitable price. Both versions tell us something important, one about who we were, the other about who we wish we had been. The colourful myths have indeed hidden the harsher realities, but knowing both versions enriches our understanding of history, mythology, and the human tendency to transform ugly truths into beautiful lies. The real pirates are long dead, but the mythical ones sail on forever in our imagination, proof that sometimes the stories we tell become more real than the truth they replaced.